When Johnny Depp finally spoke about what he called a secret Hollywood ban, it wasn't in anger. It was in that quiet, haunting tone that makes you stop scrolling. He said he felt like the industry he helped shape had turned its back on him overnight, and that no one would admit it was happening. The world knew about his lawsuits, his scandals, his trials, but very few understood what was really going on behind the scenes. Depp said there were meetings he'd never be invited to again, calls that stopped coming, and scripts that vanished from his desk like they never existed. He described it not as a punishment written on paper, but a whisper that traveled faster than truth ever could. It's strange to think about a man like Johnny Depp being shut out of Hollywood. For decades, he wasn't just an actor, he was a mystery, a symbol of rebellion, the guy who could take any bizarre role and make it magnetic. From Edward Scissorhands to Jack Sparrow, he didn't just play characters, he became them. But fame is fickle, and when the cameras turn against you, the same world that once praised you starts pretending you were never there. The first signs of the so-called ban started around the time his personal life became public property. Tabloids went wild, social media turned into a battlefield, and every studio that once called him their golden star suddenly went silent. The real breaking point came when Depp faced two major legal wars at once. One was his defamation case against the Sun newspaper in the UK, after they called him something no actor ever wants to be labeled. The court ruled against him, and that single headline became a shadow that followed him everywhere. Then came the lawsuit with Amber Heard in the US, a case so public that it turned into a global spectacle. Every word, every look, every sigh became part of the online conversation. The problem was, Hollywood doesn't like chaos it can't control. Studios began distancing themselves, not because of what they knew, but because of how things looked. Warner Bros. Was the first to act. Depp was asked to step down from his role as Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts franchise after only filming one scene. It was the kind of decision that sends a message without saying a word. You're not welcome here, at least not right now. Around the same time, his movie Minamata struggled to find a US distributor. Depp's team claimed the film was being buried, that executives didn't want to promote anything linked to his name. For an actor who had spent 30 years defining modern cinema, it was like watching his own legacy disappear in real time. He wasn't being officially banned, but unofficially doors were closing everywhere. For a while, Depp disappeared completely. No red carpets, no talk shows, no blockbuster trailers. Fans started speculating about where he was, what he was doing, and whether he'd ever return. Rumors spread that he was living mostly on his private island, avoiding the spotlight altogether. But the truth was, he was regrouping. Depp said he wasn't done telling stories, but he needed to find a way to do it without the permission of the very system that had exiled him. When he reappeared in 2023 at the Cannes Film Festival for the French film Jean du Barry, he walked the red carpet with that same calm defiance that made him famous. Cameras flashed, critics whispered, and suddenly the question wasn't, is he banned? Anymore, it was, is he back? In interviews around that time, Depp said something that confused everyone. After years of claiming he was boycotted, he now said he didn't feel boycotted at all. Some took it as a sign of peace, others as quiet sarcasm. Maybe he meant that Hollywood's approval no longer mattered. He talked about rebuilding his career outside the studio system, working with independent filmmakers, and creating art on his own terms. To some people, it looked like redemption. To others, it looked like someone trying to rewrite the past. But what everyone agreed on was that Johnny Depp had stopped begging for a seat at Hollywood's table and had built his own instead. Still, questions remain. Was there ever really a ban, or was it just fear? Fear from studios afraid of backlash, fear from executives worried about headlines, fear from fans who didn't know what to believe. The film industry doesn't need official lists to exile someone. It only takes silence. When Depp talked about being boycotted by Hollywood, he wasn't naming names. He was describing a feeling like being in a crowded room where everyone pretends not to see you. And the craziest part is, Many actors and musicians have quietly said they understood exactly what he meant. What makes Depp's case so unique is how public it all was. Most stars fade quietly, but his fall played out in real time, every moment dissected by millions. And yet, despite it all, he remains one of the few actors who can command a global audience with just his presence. Even people who claim to dislike him still click on his name. That's power, and Hollywood knows it. It's the reason that, even after everything, there are whispers of major directors wanting to work with him again. The same industry that once looked away now watches carefully, waiting to see if the comeback sticks. Depp's story has become something larger than celebrity gossip. It's a mirror. It shows how quickly fame can turn into exile and how an industry built on image can destroy someone for being in the wrong story at the wrong time. But it also shows resilience. No matter how much the system tried to erase him, his fans didn't let that happen. Every time a studio dropped him, fans launched petitions. Every time headlines painted him as finished, his supporters reminded everyone of the decades of work that came before the chaos. That kind of loyalty is rare, and it's part of why his so-called Hollywood ban may never be complete. Now, as he continues to rebuild, Depp seems more focused on legacy than revenge. He's working on smaller projects, directing again, and even exploring music more seriously. The man who once defined eccentric Hollywood now seems perfectly content living outside of it. Maybe that's the secret lesson in this whole story. Sometimes, the best way to beat the system is to stop needing its approval. The ban might not have been official, but its impact was real. It tested his career, his sanity, and his willpower. And yet, he's still here. In the end, whether you believe Hollywood truly banned Johnny Depp or not almost doesn't matter. What matters is that he faced one of the biggest public collapses in entertainment history and found a way to keep moving. He lost roles, friends, and years of work, but what he never lost was curiosity, the same curiosity that made him chase the weird, the dark, the beautiful. Maybe that's why people still care. Because beyond the headlines, the lawsuits, and the whispers, there's still something magnetic about him. Something that can't be banned, even by Hollywood. And maybe that's the part no one saw coming. That the actor once accused of being exiled would turn that exile into freedom. That by walking away, he'd remind the world that sometimes silence isn't defeat, it's strategy. The same industry that once wrote him off now watches his every move, wondering if they misjudged him. And as Depp himself once said, people cry not because they're weak, but because they've been strong for too long. Maybe that's what this story was about all along, not a ban, but survival.